Today is Thursday, August 27, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, protests for Jacob Blake continue in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Also, what is happening, folks? The father of Jacob Blake says he is no longer handcuffed to his bed. We'll tell you exactly what that's all about. Also, folks, we'll focus on the United States Census, why it matters for African Americans to ensure that we are counted. Also, on today's show, NBA players continue their protesting, and they are going to return to the court, but there are some conditions. We're going to break it all down for you. It's time to bring the funk. Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, today is the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Is also the anniversary of the death of Emmett Till. Those things have long coincided. Thousands gathered at the Lincoln Memorial today to commemorate that march, and also the focus was on the deaths of black men at the hands of cops. Here is a recap of today's march.
August 28th is a day to remember the triumphs and tragedies that have taken place in our historic struggle for racial justice. Today, we commemorate the March on Washington to Jobs and Freedom in 1963, where my father declared his dream. But we must never forget the American nightmare of racist violence exemplified when Emmett Till was murdered on this day in 1955, and the criminal justice system failed to convict his killers. 65 years later, we still struggle for justice, demilitarizing the police, dismantling mass incarceration, and declaring and determinedly as we can that Black lives matter. In our struggle for justice, there are no permanent victories. For on this day, 12 years ago, I was honored to address the Democratic National Convention in Denver. And on that night, in that evening in the Mile High City, our spirits were soaring as the Democrats nominated Barack Obama, who would go on to become the first African-American president of these United States. But the progress we celebrated then is imperiled yet again. And now we must march to the ballot box and the mailboxes to defend the freedoms that earlier generations worked so hard to win.
Some of you may remember that 2 years at the March for Our Lives, I said, spread the word. Have you heard? All across the nation, we are going to be a great generation. That was in 2018. I didn't know what would hit us in 2020. A pandemic that shut our schools and put our young lives on hold. More killings of unarmed black people by police. Attacks on our right to vote. Worst economic crisis since the Great Depression that we learned about in school. And more extreme weather than ever before. But great challenges produce great leaders. We are the great dreams of our grandparents, great-grandparents, and all our ancestors. We stand and march for love, and we will fulfill my grandfather's dream. So, show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? 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 All right. 57 years ago, in 1963, there was a struggle in Birmingham, Alabama. There was the assassination of Medgar Evers, the head of the Mississippi NAACP. In the middle of struggle and murder, they came to Washington to demand that the federal government give them a Civil Rights Act and voting rights. They marched that day, in a hot, blistering day like today, saying that as we struggle, we need legislation. And they stayed on that movement until they got the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. He promised us full citizenship if we fought to save the Union. He promised us 40 acres and a mule. We never got the full citizenship. We never got the reparations. We come to Lincoln because you promised, Mr. Lincoln, and the promise has been broken. And we come like Dr. King came 57 years ago to say we're tired of broken promises.
Tell it. No justice! No justice! Jacob Blake! Jacob Blake! Jacob Blake! There are two systems of justice in the United States. There's a white system and there's a black system. The black system ain't doing so well. But we're gonna stand up. Every black person in the United States is gonna stand up. We're tired. I'm tired of looking at cameras and seeing these young black and brown people suffer.
All right, let's go to my panel. Rob Richardson, he is the host of the Disruption Now podcast. Derek Holley, president, Reaching America, and political analyst. And we'll be shortly joined by Misha Cross, political analyst and Democratic strategist. Rob, I want to start with you. Obviously, a number of speeches today, a number of family members who've had their children killed by police. Trayvon Martin's mom was there, Sabrina Fulton. You also had, of course, as you saw there, the father of Jacob Blake, who is in a hospital there in Milwaukee. You also had the George Floyd family and so many others. At the end of the day, you had this gathering. Thousands were out there. Crowd estimates around 10, maybe 20,000 or so. They marched from the Lincoln Memorial over to the MLK Memorial. So, Rob, at the end of the day, where we are is we are less than 70 days from Election Day. It simply boils down to mobilization and organization when it comes to voting.
Yeah, that's pretty much all that's all it's going to actually come down to, because we know that despite what's going on, despite the fact that you have a president that's been in charge of leading a pandemic fail where 200,000 people almost are dead, where he stokes racial flames every time he can instead of trying to bring people together, his people are going to be motivated. No matter what the polls say, they're going to be motivated. So it's going to be on us to make sure that we come out in strong numbers, because it's always been of black people that have actually helped save America. We're going to save it one more time. Not only to improve our lives, but actually to make sure America survives.
Derek, obviously, we have seen marches and protests from folks, from African Americans, folks on the left, folks on the right. And again, marching and protesting is one thing, polling is another thing, but it boils down to who is going to get out there and vote.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. Who's going to get out and vote? And I actually cycled down into the mall today, and was down there for a good part of the protest in the march.
Did your ass put a mask on?
I did. I had to put it on. So
Good job.
So somebody put it.
Wait.
Somebody covered up biking. Oh, look at the progress.
Let me tell you. Now, let me be clear. Let me be clear. When I cycle, I do not wear a mask. However, because of the crowd size, again, I pulled out my bandana and put that around my face.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, but all that being said, man, it was Roland. It was a good event. I was glad I went down there to see it. I think the numbers of the 10 to 20,000, I think that might be on the low side. So I'm waiting to see what that aerial view is going to look like, because they were coming in droves. I mean, people were coming in droves, and so it was a really good. It was a good scene. And so I'm hoping, man, that out of this will come some type of reform as it relates to the police and what they're doing. I mean, this last shooting, man, it's just ridiculous at this point. One after another.
Anisha, I did not go. I did not go out there. One of the reasons I did not go out there is because you saw that lack of social distancing. That was precisely why. I'm sorry. And again, look, I got no problem. Here's the deal. We had the live stream, and here's the deal. I listened to people last night complain about the lack of social distancing that took place when Trump gathered last night. Look, you can't criticize that venue where they had several thousand people, and then you don't say anything about what took place at the Lincoln Memorial. And so, again, to me, seriously, to me, you could have had that event. It could have been all virtual. And so, look, if people want to get together and protest, that's fine with me. But that's why I was not there. And so, because I got to think about my family as well, and we have to be practicing what we preach. Nevertheless, these events are important. They are symbolic, but they also important. But it's also vital that you have content gathering, data gathering, because having people show up is one thing, but being able to be sure you reach them and connect with them when they leave, that to me is also important.
No, you're 100% correct. And my heart goes out to you and all the people who are involved in this movement and have been in this movement long before it became a hashtag, who were not able to be there today because of social distancing, because thousands of people flew in and who knows what they may or may not have brought with them, but also because I think that you touch on a very important point, Roland. We have never had a hard time in gathering people for a mass event in the nation's capital or any other major city for that matter. What we do have more of a problem with is consistent engagement that exists outside of those pivotal event moments. What are people doing? How are they going to carry this back into their neighborhoods? How are they going to apply pressure to their state and local leadership? What do we do beyond this? I think that for a lot of folks, and this isn't to shade anybody who took part in this movement at all, but I think that for a lot of people who flew into D.C. today and who are out on the memorial, they've checked off a box. And probably also didn't check off the boxes they needed to for the census. And I know you're going to talk about that later in your show. But I just want to make sure that people fully understand what we face in this nation. And it's more than just this election in 2020. There are so many elections that we need to have people involved in who look like us, specifically younger people who we know are such a large demographic, but don't and are not represented as often as they should be in our electoral process. But we want to see this movement take place in more than just these key moments throughout history. We want you to take this to the streets in your own communities. We want you to consistently have your voice heard at home. I think it's very easy to show up in D.C., which is a great city, and showcase it here, but it matters a lot to take it back home. It matters a lot to carry this conversation, have some actionable items that you're actually doing outside of social media and outside of the protest itself.
All right, folks, speaking of last night, Donald Trump gave one of the longest damn acceptance speeches ever last night, tallied more than an hour, no real vision forward. He did have a few black moments.
And to bring prosperity to our forgotten inner cities, we worked hard to pass historic criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones, and long-term funding of historically black colleges and universities. And before the China virus came in, produced the best unemployment numbers for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Asian Americans ever recorded. And I say very modestly that I have done more for the African American community than any president since Abraham Lincoln, our first Republican president. And I have done more in 3 years for the black community than Joe Biden has done in 47 years. And when I'm reelected, the best is yet to come.
There were a couple of minor details that were left out there, Derek. One, touting black unemployment. Yep, number did go down.
Yeah, we went through that, didn't we?
Number did go. What goes down did come up right now. It's at 14.6%. Donald Trump didn't even.
We went through that. I went you.
No, so I'm just saying. But to me, there's nothing more ignorant and ridiculous. It's for this fool to actually think, oh, I've done more for black people than any president since Lincoln. Now, if you start going through the Great Depression and FDR and the New Deal, if you talk about Truman desegregating the armed forces, and then a number of other different things. When you talk about President Lyndon Baines Johnson, Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, putting the initial pieces in place when it came to affirmative action, I mean, we can go down the line. In fact, if you want to even just say Republicans, fact of the matter is, Richard Nixon, if you read Bob Brown's book, Richard Nixon's efforts when it came to busing, second, when it came to affirmative action, third, when it came to investment in black businesses, Donald Trump can't even get close to that. But he ain't talking to black people, Derek. He ain't even talking to you, black conservatives. He really talking to the white people saying, I've been real good to the blacks. Your assessment.
So you can feel okay.
No, hold up, Derek, your assessment.
I was going to say, yeah, well, I agree with you. Everything was about what you said about Nixon. And, Roland, I didn't pay a lot attention to the conventions because I knew it was going to be a lot of grandstanding on both sides. And to your point, he wasn't, I don't think a lot of blacks tuned in to the RNC convention. So I do think he was, for the most part, speaking to his base. And like I said, I didn't pay a lot to put a whole lot of credence, if you will, to either one of the conventions for that reason, because I knew there was going to be a lot of grandstanding for both sides. And for me personally, I think a lot, for the most part, except for independents, people have pretty much made up their mind about who they want to vote for come November.
I think, Amisha, I do believe that you have a small percentage of people, white independents, who could go either way. I do believe that. I think in many ways, this election is going to be like 2012. I remember after Obama was atrocious in that first debate, Democrats were losing their mind. Oh my God, he's going to lose this. Polling showed folks were not really going either way. This election is going to come down to two things. It's going to come down to turnout, and then it's going to come down to voter suppression. Today, a judge ruled in Iowa, throwing out some 50,000 absentee ballots in Iowa because the information was filled in for the voter when it was sent to them by the local clerk. The Trump team, the Republican National Committee, they've already said they're going to send 50,000 poll watchers after that consent decree is no longer was invalidated after the last election. And they are going to be challenging mail-in ballots in every state. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's when the election is coming down. So, you know, people can sit here and talk about the pageantry, and I saw these conservatives saying, oh, Democrats and the whole deal with, you know, with the optics. They don't mean a damn thing. It's going to come down to turnout.
No, you're absolutely correct, Roland. This isn't a time where we're going to see Trump trying to expand his base. He hasn't tried to expand his base during the entire 4 years, and I don't think he's going to try to expand it by November 3rd. What he is trying to do and what the Republican Party is helping him do is ensure that there is large-scale voter suppression and voter disenfranchisement, whether that be by, you know, pushing these false narratives about there being a large amount of fraud and mail-in voting and there being problems with that, or just extremely long lines at polling stations, polling machines that don't work, polling stations closed down in certain areas. He is counting on African Americans staying home out of a sense of just apathy with the process, or not having their votes counted at all. And I think that, you know, the tragedy in all of this is that we have a president who does not really uphold democracy. He knows that he can't win this vote fair and square. He knows that this is going to be a race won within the margins. And instead of actively competing and actively pushing forward a policy that people can get behind, he's decided that he's just going to try to steal this election by whatever means necessary. And whatever means necessary is destroying mail-in ballots, utilizing the United States Postal Service to help him to do so. In addition to that, making sure that he has these states in his back pocket and governorships that are working against our democracy on a daily basis and are steadily trying to keep people off the rolls as we speak.
Derek, again, it was just laughable listening to. Listening to all of that. It was laughable. I'm sorry, Rob. Rob, go to you next. Rob, it was laughable listening to all of that. It was laughable in the fact that Donald Trump made no mention at all of any police shootings, of holding police accountable. There was this throwaway line in there about, yes, there's police misconduct. We will hold them to the letter of the law. But everything else was a full-on embrace, hug, you name it, when it comes to police. And so when I hear, and I'm going to play a video later, when I hear all of these conservatives say, Joe Biden needs to speak up more forcefully against these rioters out there, I'm like, when the hell are y'all going to say something?
That's what I'm saying. That's what look. It's fool's gold. It's actually a trap to try to fall into that narrative, because all this lawlessness, if he wants to call it that, is falling under his administration. So he's talking about all these things that are happening and saying what's going to happen if Joe Biden takes over. It's happening now. Like, so what are you talking about? It's under a Trump administration. So I actually think future Vice President Kamala Harris framed it in the right way. She's saying that he's responsible for not only these injustices with police, but he's responsible for the breakdown in the whole decay of us not having a civil way to come together, because he is exacerbating the problem. And so if you want real law and order, which just doesn't mean like cops get to do whatever they want and kill people, that's not law and order. It's real justice. Then we'll have a real administration, and we will do that, and we'll hold those people accountable, including people like the guy who I forgot the guy's name, who shot and killed 2 or 3 protesters in Wisconsin.
Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yes. He needs to be held accountable. He was able to go out and do this shooting and walk past the police officer like all is cool. I mean, law and order is out of control in this country, and it's because of Donald J. Trump, and we need to change administrations. If you want to keep going the way we are, then I guess you can go with this president. This is Trump's America. So I don't even understand the argument he was making.
So last night, you had a situation out there where after the speech was over, where Rand Paul and his wife, go to the video, were walking out, and apparently some people they turned down car service. They chose to walk back to their hotel. So there were protesters who were shouting at them and yelling at them. And Republicans have been in an uproar today, Derek. Oh, my God. I can't believe this. They feared for their life and saying that Joe Biden must slam this and Joe Biden must criticize this. But I want to show you something else. 3 days ago, Derek, 3 days ago, in Idaho, there were a group of protesters who shoved their way past state troopers in the state capitol, took over the gallery, refused to leave. The Republican Speaker of the House said, okay, fine, y'all can go ahead and stay. Then when the question was asked to the cops, why didn't y'all charge any of them? They said, oh, there was going to be a higher risk of violence if we arrested any of them. Some of them were also armed. And they said, okay, fine, y'all can go ahead and stay. What were they protesting? Masks. So I tweeted out to several conservatives who were demanding that Joe Biden speaks forcefully against this. And I said, when the hell y'all gonna speak out against something? I said 3 days ago, I said, they literally pushed past state troopers. Everywhere else I could say, if you did that, Derek, and I did it, and Amisha and Rob, hell, we getting hit with assault. But
we might not live.
We might not live to tell them.
Yeah.
Right. But wait a minute, and this is crazy. So in 2014, Derek, there were a group of LGBT activists who had a silent protest, who stood in the door. They arrested them. So my whole point is this here. Would I have been shouting down Rand Paul that way? No, because my whole deal is the best way to shut Rand Paul up is for the Democrats to take control of the Senate and put his ass in a minority. So that's just me. So other folks, but it's amazing to me how something happens and conservatives, oh my God, Democrats, you have got to condemn this. And I'm like, man, y'all let shit ride and don't say nothing.
Well, Roland, I think that goes both ways.
That's what I just said. That's what I just said, Derek.
Yeah, and so I think it rides on both sides. Now today, I had a conversation with 3 Capitol Hill police officers. 2 of them was black, 1 of them was white. And so conversation led into what took place out at Lafayette Plaza. And then I was like, man, I said, I just don't think a lot of times that people see the whole true story of what took place. And they went on from there. And so what he said was, 2 black officers, he said, we couldn't do anything at Lafayette Plaza until they tried to pull down that statue. He said, up until then, our hands were tied. But they didn't want the statue to come down, so we were then ordered to bring law and order to the whole entire situation. So again, Roland, I just think sometimes you can take a look, you can take a video, and you can take a story, and you can spin it to fit the narrative whichever way you want it to.
Yeah, no, it's not that hard. No, really. Look. You look at Cliven Bundy, who took over a federal land with guns and dared the Obama administration to come by, and they backed down. Black people.
No. Don't forget how Fox News loved that. They call that an American patriot fighting for freedom. Go ahead.
Yes, but suddenly when we're trying to fight to live, we're not fighting for freedom. We're dangerous thugs. You have the RNC out here talking about hide your baby, hide your kids. These black people are trying to take over. No, all we're trying to do is live. Like we're not protesting not having to fight. We're protesting the right to exist.
Oh, basically, yeah, Derek. Basically, Amisha, pretty much 4 days of the Republican National Convention was like, they're coming to get you, white people.
It wasn't even a coded translation. That was literally the argument. The Republicans are basing their 2020 election hopes on scaring the hell out of suburban white women because black people are protesting in the streets to have our civil rights and civil liberties upheld. And that is what it is, plain and simple. And we got to see it person after person on that stage every night for 4 nights, for 2 hours each night. That is what this is. Trump knows that his victory might just run through the suburban communities, and he's looking to speak to these white women because historically, trope after trope, when you scare a lot of white women into believing that the blacks are coming to get them, it changes things in this country. It takes democracy backwards. It takes black people backwards, and it has caused a lot of to our detriment, specifically black men, in terms of having their lives put at risk. Because the minute that one of these women ends up calling the police, it's the end of it for a black man. We know that. And as these situations keep on upticking, this president is utilizing this law and order mantra. It's not even about protests. This is about scaring people who don't even live amongst the population they're afraid of that at some point, these people are going to rise up and they're going to take whatever it is that you believe is yours, and you're no longer going to matter in this country. That is what President Trump's message is.
Derek, were you bothered by the fact that federal property, the White House was turned into a Trump stage last night? No president
Hell no, I wasn't bothered by that mess, man. No.
Okay, all right. So you're saying that if a Democrat does that, you were perfectly fine with it?
Yeah. If Obama would have done that, I'd been like, go. Yeah.
Keep this tape.
And Derek, and Derek, would your fellow Republicans be saying the same?
I don't.
Hell no, don't even try it. In fact, Trump had this. No, they would not. And so that's look. Let me tell you right now. One of the reasons why I really want to see Biden win, especially for getting rid of racist Donald Trump, is because I can't wait. I can't wait for him and Vice President Harris to do some stuff, and Republicans start talking, and all black people show me the hand, talk to the hand. Y'all didn't say a damn thing for 4 years. Talk to the hand. I'm telling you right now, if Democrats get control of the Senate, I'm telling you, Chuck Schumer should be the biggest gangster in D.C. It'll be shut the hell up. Nah. I'm talking about Chuck Schumer should do to the Republicans what Mitch McConnell did to the Democrats. Shut up. I ain't even talk. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't even let them talk in hearings. I'd be like, y'all done? Gavel, approved. Y'all done? Matter of fact, I wouldn't even have judge by judge. What do Republicans do? They put 7 judges up there, Misha, and had one big ass hearing. I put 25 judges.
That's what they should do.
And I mean, that's what we've seen happen from Republicans.
I be gangster.
Thrown away the playbook. They've thrown away the norms. They don't care. And at this point, they have a habit of calling out Democrats for the smallest infraction. But we've seen throughout this Trump administration that none of the rules apply. And then when you mention them, it's like, oh, this doesn't matter. It's really frustrating because the hashtag has come up at the state level, at the federal level several times before for senators, current seating senators. However, when it comes to the president, Republicans are acting like, oh, this is not a big deal.
I'm just letting y'all know. I'm be like, you done? You done? Next. You done? Next. Okay, now y'all, last night Trump had his big old fireworks display. You know there were protesters out there in the streets? Actually, this is a pretty cool video. Watch this. Well, Derek, 180,000 have died because Trump failed when it came to coronavirus.
It's interesting. So I was Wednesday. My cousin texted me. She said, cuz, they're running that video on TV where you were standing behind Trump and in front of Pence when I was at the White House. And I was like, damn, what is this? So I turned on CNN to watch it to see what it was. But scrolling at the bottom of the screen was Spain. Their health minister said they had over 7,000 cases of coronavirus in one day. And he said, quote, coronavirus is out of control in our country. Spain, Italy, France, all the numbers are up. Even the other one where everybody was pointing to, we should use it as an example. Everybody right now around the world. It's not just a United States problem.
New Zealand? Is that what you meant?
New Zealand's not.
New Zealand's not up.
No. New Zealand. No, hold on. Let me help you. New Zealand had 2.
All the numbers are up.
New Zealand had 2 new cases and they shut it down. 2.
I guess from 0 to 2 is okay. If you wanna, all right.
So CNN is lying.
So your defense here is that other countries have numbers going up, even if it's only 2 people.
No defense.
So Trump is fine and America's not really in trouble.
So 2 and 200,000, you see a difference there, don't you? I mean, just.
What I'm saying to you is, The coronavirus is deadly and it's impacting the entire world. It's just not a United States
you're saying
problem.
more than President Trump is, because during the entire RNC, they spoke about the coronavirus in the past tense and as though it didn't exist.
It's his fault.
No, well, hell yeah, it's his fault. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. When you're the president, no. Here's the deal. When you are the president, no. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. When Obama was president, Republicans were like, you can't take credit for low gas prices. Gas prices went high. It's your fault it's high gas prices. Republicans said, you can't take credit. No. I said, no. Wait. No. Republicans said, you can't take credit for the improving economy. Oh, I remember Jack Welch actually said, we can't trust these unemployment numbers. But now all of a sudden, I've got the lowest, it's all me. This fool actually said last night, Rob, I rebuilt the American economy in 3 years. How your ass, that's like saying, I rebuilt a car that already existed because I put some air in the tire.
Yeah, do you remember when the Republicans got upset during 2012 when Obama was talking about how the government and economy works and how no one business builds everything by themselves? You have to have roads, you have to have bridges, you have to have, and he said one line, you didn't build that, and they ran a whole line of multi-million-dollar commercials. This fool says that he built the whole economy in 3 years, which of course is not true. But like here is what's true. He is responsible for the piss-poor lack response that he had with the coronavirus. How we responded was up to him. He decided not to have a national effort. He decided that it was a hoax. He decided that people didn't need to wear masks, and that caused a whole bunch of lies. Period. End of discussion.
Hey, Derek.
Starts and ends there.
Hey, Derek, I'm just curious. I just want to know, have you ever done this?
I know you're about to ask me something crazy.
No. I just want to know, have you ever done this? Have you ever sat down with some friends who you and your wife invited over to the house, and your wife prepared this amazing meal, and she spent all day preparing this meal, and sat down and one of your guests said, Derek, this is an amazing meal, and you said, absolutely, I spent all day working on this meal, and your wife look at your ass like, no, your ass didn't. That's Donald Trump. Obama literally said, here is a great economy. And he's like, I built this. It's all mine. I built it all by myself. I get all the credit. Nothing happened before I came. Your wife would sit there. She would say, Derek, let me holler at you for a second. She would cuss you out there on the spot, wouldn't she?
Pretty much.
Hell yes. Hell yes. Yeah. So that's exactly probably how Obama feels when this lame ass up there talking about I rebuilt the economy in 3 years. Man, whatever the hell. That's just such nonsense.
That narrative also presupposes that the economy was completely in shambles and destructive before Donald Trump came in.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely incorrect.
That's what I'm saying. That's like saying, wait a minute, I have all these ingredients and uncooked meat, and just nothing is cooked. But then all of a sudden, if I came in and did something with it, I can take credit for the whole dinner. But you can't walk in and say the whole dinner is now prepared, is cooked, and is served, and then you go, where my love? Show me some love. Man,
he destroyed. He made it worse now. The economy's in a worse position.
Take all the credit for the coronavirus deaths, but no credit for the economy.
No, Derek, what we're saying is, if your ass gonna take credit for the good stuff, your ass gonna accept blame for the bad stuff. And I ain't trying to hear, it was so great before COVID. Cause that's a part of that's in your 4 years, baby. See, you got to accept what's in your 4. That's like George W. Bush saying, yo, the economy was kicking until that shit fell out, until the housing crisis just destroyed the entire economy and almost put us into the second greatest depression in American history. Donald Trump is the equivalent of a dude who said, yo, we were killing them in that game. And they said, no, you were killing them in the first half. You got your ass whooped in the second half and you lost the game. yeah, but by halftime, we were killing them.
Yeah, I would say this about Trump, though. You cannot underestimate his ability to rally the troops, though. He knows how to.
Oh, they don't care about lies.
They don't care about lives. They don't care. They don't care about the economy. I mean, like he's able to get them to feel so good about whatever, about whiteness, about craziness, about whatever, about his bully lies that they will just buy into it.
Derek, for 3 years, this man has lied, saying he signed the Choice Act for veterans. Dog, there's literally video of Obama signing it in 2014. The fool last night said he signed the Choice Act.
And everybody stood and applauded.
It was in 2014, bruh. This man will lie. We will just lie about anything.
And things that can easily be fact-checked extremely quickly because he knows that his base does not care about facts. He knows that his base doesn't care about truth. He knows that his base is going to be with him regardless. And I think that he also counts on Americans as just not being that smart because literally his speech was fact-checked in real time. He's not only making up dates and events, he's also creating stories out of nowhere in terms of his own progress. Yeah, and I think that, it gets frustrating after a while because you continue to see this. We saw it got him into the White House the first time. I would be scared to think that this exact same thing would get him into it a second time.
Hey, Derek, you're an Omega, and so I've now found.
You guys.
Go ahead, Derek, go ahead.
I was going to say conversely, you're saying that, he thinks that Americans are stupid. The same could be said for the Democrats.
On what?
It's just that all black people going to vote for me, period.
Actually, if you start breaking down numbers, the reality is that was 96%, no, 93% of black women voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. That's damn nearly all black people.
Derek, it's just by the likelihood, just like the likelihood that the majority of white men are going to vote Republican. You know why? Because they always vote Republican.
Right. I mean, right.
I don't think of that as racist.
Like, for instance, like if Donald Trump said, yo, the majority of white folks with me. Well, no Democrat has gotten higher than 40% of the white vote since 1964. Well, that's factually correct. So what's the problem? So Derek,
we talked about this on one of your shows before, Roland, that, in 2016, that was the lowest turnout for black voters.
No. There was
the lowest turnout.
No, the
2016.
No. The lowest.
20 years.
Right. Thank you very much. Now you had to correct yourself because the lowest turnout for black people when we couldn't vote. Yes. So there was a drop of 2.4%. In 2016, we're going to make sure there's no drop. But Derek, you've been in Omega. I have now found the perfect response when I have to encounter whatever you say in public. I have now found it. So, Derek, I just want you to know, from this moment forth, anytime you say some ignorant shit on this show, I am going to play this.
Are you going to make me disconnect?
No. Come on, y'all.
Don't go.
It's on the iPad.
Don't go snowflake.
Go to my iPad.
Don't be a snowflake.
Huh? It's no sound. Just pull the video up. No, I don't know what the control room. What y'all doing? Pull the video up. No, I've got video playing, and it's showing it. So, Derek, this is perfect for you. This is perfect for you. Because last night, and I want to thank Melania for providing me this video. Do y'all have it now? Here we go. Here you go, Derek. This is for you. From now forward, Derek, this is right here. Derek, right? This bullshit. And look, this lying ass. Right there. That's going to be for you every time. Every time. Every time, Derek. Every time. Like, so let me give you mine. This is mine right here, Derek. Bullshit. Here you go. Yeah, there you go. He lying again. Yeah, that's it right there. That's what it's gonna be from this point forward. When you say something and people go like, Derek back on your show, yeah, okay, his ass. Look at it. She like, hi, co-first lady, how you doing? Yeah, okay, whatever. Let me go to a break. We come back. Yeah, that was for you. I'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered just a moment. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding for services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please, take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. NBA is back this weekend, but after extensive conversations with the governors, owners throughout the week, the league and its players released a joint statement today detailing the concrete changes they hope to see going forward as they resume play. Among the commitments is the immediate establishment of social justice coalition with representation from players, coaches, and governors that will cover a wide array of issues, including increased voting access, promoting civic engagement, and advocating for meaningful police and criminal justice reform. In every NBA city where the league's franchise owns and controls its arena property, team owners will work with local officials to turn those arenas into voting locations for the 2020 general election, giving constituents a way to vote in person during the coronavirus pandemic. If that isn't possible, there will be an effort to use those facilities in other ways, including as sites to register voters and receive ballots. Folks, this was something that they had no choice. The players were prepared to walk away. LeBron James, one of the voices, had reached out to President Barack Obama. Amisha, this is a pretty interesting deal here, and this is where players utilizing their leverage. That's what they did. Okay, we got issues with your microphone, so let me go to Rob. Rob?
Yeah, I mean, this is the power of solidarity. It shows you the power of coming together and what you can use with your platform. I'm proud of these athletes because I had some debate with some folks. They were like, well, they shouldn't do this. They don't have a plan. Clearly they do. And this got folks' attention. And this is what's going to be needed for this fall because we're going to need a lot of energy. And they're going to, as we've talked about, they're going to try every avenue to suppress, to intimidate. But when there's a light shine on it, it's going to be very hard. And there's a high turnout. Despite all of those issues, we're going to be able to win. So I just tell people, look, don't worry about voter suppression. Just get out and vote.
Derek, you got some NFL owners. They better be be concerned. I was reading a piece from Jim Trotter earlier today, and he said there are a number of NFL players who are thinking about saying, "Yo, we're gonna boycott at least one of the games." I'm telling you, these what the owners got to understand is this here: you ain't got no product unless you have players.
Get the players.
Indeed, Roland. And man, let me tell you, it was a couple of days ago. I was taking Derek to training for our track practice, And he was saying, Dad, they're gonna, they're not gonna play. I said, they're gonna protest the NBA. I was like, well, they ain't gonna protest unless they play the game. And I was so happy when I heard the Milwaukee Bucks had walked off and wasn't gonna play, because that's power, man. And these players have the power to really, really make a change. Roland, when you had your show, when we was on TV One, we were talking about the NFL at the time when he was kneeling, when Kaepernick was kneeling, all that kind of stuff. It's like, Derek, you're going to get this message to the White House. So I'm going to get it over there. And right now, man, and even back then with Colin Kaepernick kneeling, I think these players, as long as they have a plan, and they have a plan, they can have an impact on what society and what happens in this country right now. And if the NFL right now, if them boys come out and boycott a game, shorty, it's going to make all the world of a difference. But after that, after these boycotts, after the protests, you got to have a plan. The plan got to be some type of justice, something as it relates to police reform. And it can't be defund the police. It's got to be a concrete plan. And these athletes can be the centerpiece, if you will, to make this thing happen.
Simple as that. And again, this shows you how collective leverage. Because see, again, I'm not using power. And the reason why. See, power means you control. The reality is the NBA governors, they control because they own the teams. But this is where you use leverage and influence. And I think it's important for people, just like the players did not boycott the games. That was a strike. It was not a boycott. This is leverage and influence that they are exerting to get the league and the owners to do what they need them to do. And I would hope that these black players in the NFL would, as a collective, find some guts to realize it's more you than them. I mean, Jerry Jones can sit here. I'm telling you right now, Jerry Jones can talk all this crap he wants to about kneeling. Let me tell you what changes that. When Dak Prescott has the guts to stand with his fellow player. When, in fact, y'all have the video of the Minnesota Vikings today. Today, the Minnesota Vikings players got together and they spoke to the issue, and they spoke as a team. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, pay attention.
We want proper persecution of Derek Chauvin, the police officer that kneeled on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes along with the other officers. That's all we want, just to start there. And as a social justice coalition, as a group, and as a team, and as an organization, we're doing everything we can to build sustainable programs that will help the long-term effects of the lack of economic prominence in low-income areas, the lack of mental health support in some of these areas. We are doing everything we can, but now it's on the bureaucratic system to also meet our intensity, to meet our level of what we're demanding, because it only goes so far. It's a two-way street. We can do what we can with the finances and the resources we have, but we need the politicians, we need the government officials, the bureaucratic system, like I spoke to stand up and be leaders. Because we live in a world right now where everyone cherishes the voices and the stances of entertainers. And everything falls back on us. What are they going to do? What stance are we going to make? Right now, we're saying right now we're going to put the pressure on the bureaucratic system to implement a proper persecution of Derek Chauvin. I'll repeat his name again, Derek Chauvin. I'm not going to just say the officer. His name is Derek Chauvin, along with the other officers who murdered George Floyd in the streets of Minneapolis. I speak for my entire team right now. I appreciate them allowing me to come up and be the voice, but just know I'm one man, but the army that behind me is much stronger when we're together. And we wanted a unified voice in this moment. I appreciate Coach, the administration, for allowing us to, even be possible today. But it's a two-way street, like I said. Now it's time for the bureaucratic system to hold up its end and to supply a fair trial, fair juries. All of the process that we've known has failed us before. We're sick of the process and the system failing us. We're standing up right now as the Minnesota Vikings and saying we want a proper jury, we want a proper persecution of Derek Chauvin. Thank you.
If the NFL and all of his players stood behind him, and that was a white player who spoke after him as well. We're now seeing this, Rob, in the NFL, in Major League Baseball, where white players, and let's be real clear, we didn't have this before, where white players were standing up for these issues. Go right ahead, Rob.
No, I've actually never seen it. It's encouraging, but I would tell you it's also scaring a lot of people. I can speak right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. My fiance and her kid goes to a Catholic high school, and the principal came out with this letter saying he believes Black Lives Matter, but doesn't want anybody taking a knee at the game, or otherwise you could get suspended. So in other words, you don't believe in Black Lives Matter. You don't believe in protest. So this is worrying people, and that's why I know it's working. And so it's taking the power of the agency. Yeah. We're not here just to entertain you. We're gonna fight for our rights, and I am so proud of these athletes, and I'm so proud of this generation right now.
And again, that's how.
I saw.
Go ahead, Derek. Go ahead.
I was going to say that brother did a really good job with the Minnesota Vikings, but the day before, Ryan Tannehill, white quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, stood up and did something very similar to that. Had the whole team behind him, and it was powerful to the point where he actually got choked up, and a couple of tears came down, and it was a good thing, man, because there are some really good white people out there who are really, really supporting this movement, and I think these players, man, the NFL, first of all, the NBA, applaud them for what they did, and they are a true example. And I think if the NFL can follow suit, man, I think we could really have an impact.
It's only going to happen when you have players who have the guts to actually stand up. As simple as that. Yep. But again, Amisha, I think what you're seeing is you're seeing a new generation of folks find their voice, and this is how you use your leverage and influence to be able to create change.
No, you're absolutely correct. And I think they're watching these people in the streets who, in many cases, don't have two dimes to rub together, and they are sitting in their, multi-million-dollar homes with this level of influence, with this embedded base of followers. It is incumbent upon them to take on a leadership role and really speak out now. For the NBA and the NFL, these are two institutions of sports that would not exist without the athleticism of African-American males. So to see the NBA, first and foremost, go out of its way and take the charge that it has, I think that it shows a strength in leadership, and it's something that, we're going to see showcased throughout some of the other leagues. I'm also extremely impressed by the MLB and the NHL, which are not majority black leagues that are really taking a stand right now as well.
Yeah, that's the case, folks. Let me give you this headline here. Fabiana Pierre-Louis has been confirmed to become the first black woman to serve on the New Jersey Supreme Court. The full state Senate voted 39-0 to approve Governor Phil Murphy's pick to be the next associate justice on the state's highest court. She will be the third black judge to join the court in the state's 244-year history. She also will be the youngest justice on the current court. And it's also, of course, her folks are immigrants of Haiti. And so certainly congratulations to her for that. All right, folks, that is it for us. First half of our show. Rob, Amisha, and Derek, we certainly appreciate all three of you being with the panel. And look forward to seeing you guys next week. Yes. And Derek.
Stop hanging on this time. Not hanging up.
Yeah, Derek, nice job. Yes. I mean, in fact, Derek, one of the folks on my social media said Derek must have taken his ADHD medicine because he hasn't hung up yet.
You ain't pissing me off.
Yeah, no, right. You took your medicine. Thank you for taking your meds.
You're
now,
my man, though, Roland.
Thank you.
You're an alpha. You still my man.
Thank you for taking your meds. So please, if you can affect Kanye, that would be great. But Omega Kappa, that's all the same thing. Y'all, thanks a bunch, folks. Hold tight. It's the same thing. Coming up next, the census, why it matters to African Americans. The census, why it matters. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
We can face this pandemic head on. We can do what it takes to protect our families and our communities. Together, we can get our economy moving again, but not without the tools and resources we need to get the job done. To win this fight, it is going to take a public service army. Don't let Congress fire the frontline workers who can save us. Text FUND to 237263 to tell Congress to fund the front lines.
And we want to thank the folks, our All right, we back. I want to thank the people that asked me for being, of course, partners here with Roland Martin Unfiltered. What they're laying out is critically important, and so we appreciate their support for this show. Folks, the Constitution requires an accurate count of the country's population every 10 years. And this year, 2020, is a census year. The data collected affects the ability to ensure equal representation and equal access to important governmental and private sector resources for everyone across racial and ethnic lines. Unfortunately, certain populations are at a higher risk of not being fully counted in the census. Some, like African Americans, have been historically underrepresented for decades. One of the reasons is major changes in the way the data is collected, like relying on the internet as primary way to reach households and how they respond. And some people are just reluctant to respond because they don't trust the confidentiality of the data being collected. Now, in the next hour, we'll talk about why Black folks must participate and really get people to understand really what the census is and how it impacts you. Now let me stay right there. Because some of you who are watching right now, there are more than 6,000 people on YouTube right now, and there's 1,000 plus who are watching on Facebook and Periscope, and you're sitting there saying, all right, you know what, this is not really exciting, this is not really interesting, but we're talking about billions of dollars. If you are watching us right now, and you care about parks, roads, stop signs, highways, expressways, health centers, if you care about how dollars are being allocated based upon census tracts, the census is how that money is allocated. Michael C. Cook, Sr., he is the Director of Public Affairs for the Census Bureau. He joins us right now. Michael, how you doing?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to let people know that the 2020 census is still going on. Time is running out, but it's not too late. And we just want to make sure that they understand why it's important, why it's easy, and the fact that it's something that the Black community can't miss out on.
I also want to bring up Dr. Amina Demesi, Vice President of Research and Policy Analysis for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Doc, glad to have you as well. So I want to talk to both of you because, so Mike, I want to start with you first. Again, when we say billions of dollars, first of all, people are watching and going, yo, seriously, are we really talking about billions of dollars? But we literally are talking about how the nation is funded.
That's correct. Every 10 years, we conduct a count. You got it right. You hit the nail on the head. Article 1, Section 2 states that it's a mandatory count of everyone residing in the country for two things, power and money. 435 seats in the House of Representatives are allocated because we count everybody once, only once, and in the right place. But also those federal funds. You mentioned billions. Some people have actually measured it to be $1.5 trillion every single year that flows down to the local level for things like roads, schools, infrastructure. The current pandemic underscores the need for accurate census data when we're talking about emergency preparedness and healthcare. But then when you look at SNAP benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, if you have college students, Pell Grants. So every single facet of the country, business sectors, private and federal and public, they use our official statistics to justify making investments that impact your lives. It only takes a couple minutes, but it sticks with your community for 10 years. This is a voting year. When you vote, it tends to stick with you for the terms of that election, 4 years, 1 year, 2 years. But when you look at the census, for 10 years, it'll shape your community. And so I just want to take the opportunity to let all of your listening audience, all those that are following you, that the census is happening. If you haven't responded, there's still time to respond, but it's something that you need to take part in, stand up, respond, and get counted.
Black America Counts is an initiative with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and Fair Count, the organization founded by Stacey Abrams. Their goal is to identify hard-to-reach communities and guide outreach and mobilization efforts to help increase census turnout. Dr. Demesi, let's talk about that because people, look, the absolute old way, they went door to door. Folks got census shirts on and they've got bags and they go door to door, knocking on doors. For a lot of folks, they don't like people just knocking up on their door. But now you've also seen, now with the internet, how that's changed as well. And so how has technology helped? Has it improved this process to be able to reach those hard to reach places or hard to reach people? I'm sorry.
Yeah. First, let me just say that what Stacey Abrams did in her, 15 seconds of fame was created a movement, a new movement for us to understand the power of data as it relates to the resources needed by the Black community. As you just heard, we are consistently undercounted. And so the brilliance behind our partnership is that we are identifying hard to count communities, particularly Black and Latinx, in order to really cast a wider net, go beyond what the census has done, to really equip our policymakers and organizers with data, information on where their communities are. Because here's the thing, right? It's great that we have another medium to fill out the census. You can go online, takes 5 seconds, if you have internet access. When we talk about our community, not only are we wrestling with the global pandemic, we don't all have access to the internet. So, what our advantages to some are unrealistic for our community. So we have to bridge that gap. So what our partnership does is also identify communities of color, either a county that has 25% lack of internet access or community of color. We want to know where those communities are, and we want to equip our policymakers and organizers with the information they need, so we can then do what Fair Count is doing, which is actually setting up internet access for people in communities, but understanding that there are a number of barriers. And so just providing internet is not enough for our communities to get the accurate count they need.
Michael, how many people are out here? How many people are in the country who are trying to get this accurate count?
We have 234,000 people that we've hired knocking on doors. They've been doing that since August 9th. We have seen that the self-response rate for the nation, which really right now stands at 60 to 64%, is actually at 80% when you add in the amount of people who've actually been counted by people knocking on doors. So I applaud the fact that people are responding, but I know that there's still work to be done. And I encourage people to go to 2020census.gov to respond online, like you said. But remember that our online instrument is optimized for mobile. So people can actually respond on any mobile device, any device that can get to the internet, as well as phone numbers. We have 13 phone numbers in 13 different languages that people can call to complete it over the phone.
Michael, let's talk about safety. And that is, look, this has been one of the concerns. My data, who's getting it, who's getting my information, am I have the turn of my social security number, bank records, what's going on here? And so what data is being asked for when it comes to the census?
When someone asks you to complete the census and they knock on your door, they will come to your door with a mask. Masks are mandatory. Their safety, your safety in the pandemic is number one. They will be 6 feet away from the door, asking you questions and inputting these simple questions into an iPhone 8. They will ask you your name. They'll ask you your phone number, because if there's something wrong with your answer, they need to circle back. They're going to call you. They're going to ask you how old you are. They're going to ask you your race, your ethnicity, your relationship to anybody else who lives in that house, how long you've lived in that house. They're easy questions. We don't ask you about social security number on the 2020 census. We don't ask you about bank accounts. All of that detailed information about you that you give up on many surveys that you answer any and every day, that's not part of the 2020 census. These are statistics about your household as of April 1st, 2020, that can be released in aggregate in statistics, so decision makers can make informed decisions that impact their lives for the next 10 years.
Dr. Demasi, is there any particular group, the most vulnerable? When I look at voting, typically the older you are, the more likely you are going to vote. And then as you go down with age, it actually gets lower and lower and lower. Are we seeing that same thing mirrored when it comes to the census?
Yeah, and I commend, Michael and his leadership in this space, because, every 10 years gives us another chance to get it more right, right? Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you see it, age does not insulate us from our rates of participation. The challenges are across the board, right? So one of the things with our Fair Count, Black America Counts partnership was using the model that Stacey Abrams used in Georgia and mapping it across the country, so we could see what do our populations look like. And it doesn't come as a surprise to most of us who do this work, that a lot of our communities in the South, right, disproportionately affected, high proportions of Black folks with higher disproportionate rates of challenges to get the census filled out. So you have people like, and it goes across the country, right? You've got people like Congressman Stephen Horsford out in Nevada that partnered with our chair of the CDC, Karen Bass, and created a CDC Census Task Force specifically to make sure that we can really bridge the gap across all ages, communities, whether you're senior or young. You need to be counted at the end of the day. So, unfortunately, the undercounting doesn't discriminate, within it. There are challenges throughout, but we do see some variation across states as well. More challenges in the South. We see less challenges in sort of the Midwestern states. But, the census has the data to keep track, but it really is incumbent upon us to get the word out, because it's kind of abstract, right? We all say go to vote, everybody gets that. When you say go fill out the census, people are like, well, why, right? And then we got to break it down, because this is about the services that you need every day for your survival that we are voting about, right? This is what it comes down to: reapportionment, reallocation of resources, billions of dollars. So that's the language translation that our communities have to make, so people understand it is just as important as voting.
Michael, is there any particular region of the country for Black folks that is more difficult? And where do we do the best?
Well, when we look at our statistics and we look at the returns of self-response, we have found that the patterns of non-response actually track with the patterns of the country that have been highly impacted by the pandemic. So we are working with our partners to ensure that while people are dealing with life and liberties and making sure that they are safe, that they know that in this time, there's still time and a responsibility to respond to the 2020 census. When you look at the Black community, Black men ages 18 to 35 are historically undercounted. That's what we call the differential undercount. So those people that look like me, that are 18 to 35, as well as kids ages 0 to 5, the young children are typically undercounted. So we have a robust media campaign, and our partners have been sharing that information and being laser focused and making sure that those communities, those pockets of the country that look like those undercounted communities are actually knowing that it's easy, safe, and important.
Dr. Demesi, again, when we are trying to convey this and getting people to get it. Look, there's a lot of people don't trust government. They just don't trust them. So what messaging are y'all using to reach people, to get them to understand?
So we're breaking it down really, not just saying it's important to fill it out, but why it is, okay? So, at the end of the day, people might not get the numbers so much, right? But when you talk to them about federal transit programs, Section 8 housing vouchers, school breakfast programs, right? Highway planning construction, unemployment insurance, which, we're seeing because of the current recession we're in, is skyrocketing in our community, it resonates. So number one, we're trying to translate why it's important to be counted, to understand that this is a social justice issue. Data and the data is important, in a post-civil rights era where, at the end of the day, people are looking at our numbers. Policymakers need to have these tools. That's why the census does this job, because we need to be represented. This is all about representation at the end of the day. And most of us get that part. So we are trying to talk about the 300 plus federal programs that our tax dollars go to fund across the country based on these needs that people do connect with. Like, people know what it means for their kids to go to school and have lunch, right? People know what it means for them to have medical assistance, and Medicaid. Well, that's what this census is about. It's about making sure we're counted so that we have equal access to all of these services that are coming out of our taxpayer dollars.
Michael, last question for you. Deadline. We know that it was shortened a month to be able to collect data. And so when is the drop dead date for people out there who are watching and listening to be sure that they fill out that census?
September 30th of 2020 is our deadline. We currently are earmarking that date as the date in which we will conclude all of our field operations so that we can then start compiling the data and performing all of the tests and rigorous processes to turn over our apportionment counts by December 31st, our current statute that's on the books that we have to meet.
All right. Michael, Dr. DeMessi, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk to folks who are out in the field making it happen, organizations who know what it means to emphasize the census. That is next, Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding for services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. All right, so a lot of y'all are always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robert don't have one on. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a Shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they make these about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. Now, what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike other, because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these Shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So it's RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, it goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club. Folks, our black mayors really need you to focus on the census because they have been very much in pushing this to their constituents. Joining us right now is Mckinley L. Price, the mayor of Newport News, Virginia. He is the president of the African American Mayors Association. Mayor, certainly glad to have you with us. So can you please, again, as somebody who's sitting in the mayor's position, let folks know what happens when they don't fill out their census, how that impacts you and your budget?
It impacts us tremendously, especially when you realize that this is something that's going to take place for 10 years. It's approximately up to $2,000 per person per year for 10 years, amount of money that you're talking about. So just as your former guest talked about, when you're talking about SNAP, WIC, all of the programs that affect the people who are historically undercounted, it's affecting them. So it's a tremendous strain on our budget if we're underfunded. And historically, 10 years ago, we were pretty much underfunded. If we're about at the same percentage, for our city, it may be as much as $100 million per year.
$100 million per year. And so when you are conveying that, are folks getting it? Because I'm sure they're complaining, Mayor, we want this and we want that and we want these services and we want pools staying open, pool hours, and we want park stuff. And you like, well, damn it, if y'all fill that census out, I could have had more money.
Absolutely. We're doing everything we can, with social media. We're having contests. We actually had a contest between mayors. And you'll see the larger cities doing it too. I think Houston and Atlanta had a rivalry. Those two mayors, but the mayor of Hampton, Mayor Tuck, and I, if he won, had more people within a period of time to enroll before I did, I would give him a bushel of oysters, and I was going to get crabs if he won. Even though I had more people to register, percentage-wise, because it's a smaller city, Hampton, he won, and I had to fork over the oysters, so I hated that. But we're trying every means we can to be able to make people understand how important this is.
There are a lot of course, when we talk about African Americans, when we speak about community needs, and I often talk about on this show how we have to connect the dots, and what I mean by that is a person is sitting there and they're living in a city, and somebody right now, whether they're in your city, they're in some other city, and they're saying, we need these things for our community. Well, in their mind, they're going to just simply go ask you, without realizing that you're going to go ask somebody else. And then you might be asking the state of Virginia. You might be asking the federal government. And so then those resources come down. And so what folks are not realizing, as far as I'm concerned, is that when they don't take this seriously, you can ask for all that you want, but that sucker is locked in for 10 years. It's locked. You can't go back and say, hey, these things have changed in our city in the last 2 years. No, you're locked. Your city can experience tremendous growth in the next 5 years, but you're still locked into the next census, right?
That is correct. That is correct. The count, like you said, at that drop dead date, whatever number is there for you, that's it for 10 years. You don't get any. It's no replay. It's no mulligan. It's no slipses. That's it.
When we talk about needs, what are you hearing the most from your constituents? What do they want? What do they want done?
Well, we're the 5th largest city in Virginia, and we're about 60-40 population, 60% majority race, 40% minority. And where you have public housing and areas of poverty, those are the places that are in the greatest need. And those are the places where we're having, generally, as you heard the statistics, the most difficulty in getting the count. Young men between ages of 18 to 35. Children, for some reason, people are not reporting the number of children that they have in the house. Everyone that's in that household, when that person comes to ask you to take that census needs to be counted. It's heartbreaking to see the level of need in the city, and you want to be able to match the resources to the need. And people talk about equity. Everything that's equal isn't always needed the same. Where you have need, you want to be able to have the resources to do more for them. And it's heartbreaking sometimes when, you see the need, you have the plan, you know what you want to do, you know what would help, and then you don't have the resources. And those are the people who generally either don't vote or don't have counted in the census. And it's painful.
You talked about how your mayors are competing. What about young constituents, people who are 18, 35? Because if you think this thing out 10 years from now, then they're going to be 28, 45. And so obviously getting them to understand long term what this means too.
Absolutely. That's why education about the census is so important. The panelists that you just had, the literature that is out there, we're trying to come up with any means we can, especially for the younger group, because they say, what does it matter? I'm not going to see this money. It's not coming in my pocket. But actually it is. And 10 years when they want to, do something in their neighborhood, they want a street widened, they want lights better in their neighborhood. All of these things are contributed by the amount of money that we have. Also, which is very important, the number of representatives, as the person talked about.
Last question for you. That is, if you are one of those folks knocking on the door, or even just in, actually this here. Talk about the mayors. Have you created, let's say, a competition between churches? A competition in something else. That way, you sort of are getting other people involved in this, where they can sort of, sort of go back and forth on this whole thing.
We have tried to create a competition. We've done this with our mayors. We're trying to get organizations and clubs. We have been very responsive to the local census takers in our neighborhood. They have really been good. I mean, they've been very creative. They'll come at a drop of a minute to any type of club meeting, any gathering of 3 or more people. We'll have a census taker there to either distribute literature, inform people about it. So, use the numbers. If you have an organization, you have a church group, you have a neighborhood that doesn't understand the purpose and the need of this, then we really want you to call the Census Bureau. And everybody has a local leader that will come out, will send someone out so that they can educate people to the need of this. This money is important, and we have one shot at it every 10 years. And I just can't emphasize that more.
All right, then. Mayor, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Hopefully when this...
Thank you, my fraternity brother. I appreciate it.
All right. Always have a good alpha in the house, folks. Mayor Mckinley Price of Newport News, Virginia. I can't wait to, when this COVID thing dissipates, so I can get down and see you. I live in Northern Virginia, so it'd be great to get down there and play some golf.
Absolutely, sir.
All right. Thanks very much, folks. Coors Mayor is president of the African American Mayors Association. Got to take a break. We come back. Civil rights groups are doing their part to also encourage folks to fill out their census form. We'll talk about that next on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.
It's rough out there. People are looking for change, for answers. One answer is at your fingertips, the 2020 Census. Census takers will be visiting households to make sure we are counted. Because an undercounted community could miss out on billions of funding for schools, healthcare, and job assistance each year for the next 10 years. Too much is at stake. Respond online today.
Shape your future. Start here at 2020census.gov.
As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding for services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please, take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. All right, folks, civil rights organizations are united in pushing Congress to extend the deadline for the census count. But the reality is that if it doesn't happen, we still have to drive this thing as hard as we can. Joining us right now is Beth Link. She is the Census Counts Campaign Director for the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and Melanie Campbell. She's the President, CEO, National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. All right, glad to have both of you on the show. Beth, I want to start with you, and that is, look, date's been moved up, and the reality is, if it doesn't get changed, we have to ensure that we are counted. And so what does that look like?
Yes, you're right. I mean, the bottom line is, as you've heard on the show today, the census is about money and power. And look, Roland, the Trump administration, and Trump wants to erase Black people from the 2020 census because he knows that it's our shot at getting billions of dollars to our communities and the political power that we deserve. And that will enable us to be able to make real change for our families and our communities. We are doing everything that we possibly can, whether it's census city challenges. Mayor Lightfoot has a census cowboy on the south side of Chicago. Last weekend, we texted over 350,000 people who had not yet responded to the census, inviting them to respond in our Sisters for the Census text bank. But the reality is that the census is allowed to proceed with this truncated timeline. The Census Bureau will not have the time to count everyone. And we're already seeing that the Black community is behind. Michael, at the beginning of the show, said that nationally response rates are about 80%. That includes responses at the door. But when we look at the Black community, on average, predominantly Black communities are 10 points behind the national average. But if you look at specific communities, the south side of Chicago, we're seeing self-response rates in the 30s and in the 40 percentiles. We're seeing in Detroit response rates in the 40s. In Mississippi, around 50% self-response rates. So this is really going to hurt us if we don't get this extension.
But this is also why I'm a huge believer in this, Melanie. And it's not just with the census, it's with civics across the board. Messaging matters. And I think connecting the dots matter. And I just think the census is one of those things that people, they hear about it, but I mean, I don't really know. And then, like, we sit here and talk about those of us who live and breathe public policy, billions lost. And the person like, I don't know what you're talking about. And this, I think you got to operate like my man Joe Madison said. You got to put it where the goats can get it. Where you got to make it as plain as possible for somebody to go, oh, I didn't realize that the census affects that.
Right. Well, Roland, you helped us launch back in February, Black History Month, right? And we said, due to in 2020, vote and be counted, right? And so we didn't know at that time we were going to be dealing with COVID. So we've been actually, while we're out here getting out the vote, tying voting and the census as about building power, as a power dynamic. 2, it's about your money. It's about our money, getting that money. So we say it's about money, power, and respect. And then the respect comes in being able to make sure that make sure that as Black people that we're fully counted, but we're fully counted so we can leverage that power politically, economically, through our issues around health care, being able to tie in through this COVID-19. So for these next 30 plus days, because we're right with Beth with the leadership conference and all of our colleagues to keep pushing for the Congress to intervene. And at the same time, we're looking at that September 30th date. This last push, we said, this is it. We got to go hard. Like my sister Latasha said, we got to go hard in the paint, right? We got to do everything we can. And while we're knocking on doors, a lot of our folks are knocking on doors, doing safe distancing as best we can. We're the phone bank for the next 30 days. We're pushing the getting counted and voting early. So we just had to tie them together. We thought that was going to be what we do for the first half of the year, but who knew? So our message: do too in 2020, vote and be counted.
The whole point, Beth, when I'm talking about how you got to make this thing plain, is really getting, and that's why I keep bringing things down to sidewalks, pools, parks, senior citizen centers, things that are right there in people's neighborhoods that they want to see improved, and tying that to filling out that form. That to me is, I think, how we have to be operating where a person goes, oh, I had no idea that those things were related. Had no idea.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if you also think about the pandemic and the health concerns that our communities are facing right now, I mean, the reality is that racism and discrimination have meant that our communities are relying on Medicaid, housing assistance, other financial assistance at disproportionately high rates. It also means that we are more susceptible to chronic health issues that makes us more susceptible to die from a global health crisis and a disease like COVID-19. And we need the resources for healthcare, for infrastructure. Certainly, folks need the resources to have better internet connectivity in your homes. We need the jobs that census data will bring to communities when they see the large population growth in a specific area. And we need the resources going to our schools. We need that extra lane on a highway that resources would bring. We need the resources that will bring relief for natural disasters that we're seeing across the South and in the Gulf. Census data drives that. That's that distribution of $1.5 trillion every year. And if we miss out on our piece of the pie, it will impact us certainly for the next decade, but could impact us for generations. And that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about participate in the census, but also make sure that communities are not deprived of their right to participate in the census by truncating the timeline. And Congress can extend those timelines that the House already has. It's up to the Senate in an upcoming COVID-19 relief package or any other moving bill. It's urgent. It has to happen. And our communities need time to respond so we don't miss out.
Obviously, Melanie, COVID has impacted everything. I mean, the reality is normally you have a ton of outdoor events, things around churches, all kind of different stuff to sign people up where people are congregating and going. But you actually have none of that. And so where we are is really, I mean, we are in truly an absolute digital world. Now, I live in that world, so I totally understand it. But this is one of those things where I think civil rights groups taking advantage of their databases, saying, hey, each one of you out there, right now, look, there's more than 4,000, more than 5,000 plus folks who are watching. We need folks saying, hey, I need you to send that link to 5 people, 2020census.gov to 5 people, and not relying, frankly, on a group or relying on somebody coming on your door to be able to sort of spread this thing as fast as possible, as quickly as possible.
And then the faith community is one working real close. Dr. Barbara Williams-Skinner with National African American Clergy Network is doing an awesome job, really utilizing the faith community. So many of our churches are online and not, in congregations physically. So every angle that we can use. What you're doing with your show tonight is really a shining example of spending the time and taking the time. So many folks are sheltered in place. Not everybody, because of first responders and a lot of people working having to be out of home. But most people, even if you're working, you still go end up more at home than you are out in the general community. For being able to use every avenue we have. And some of this we still will have to, and our folks still are making those phone calls. And if you, and like 5,000 folks that are watching, they just look about where first have you been counted? Check and make sure you've been counted. And then make sure that your family has been counted, and just starting from there. The other part of it is really a big part of it. I know we talked about Black men and how important that is. So for us, we're doing a challenge with focus on Black men, especially the Black voters, to say, hey, we want you to vote and count it, and because a lot of young people would be counted at school and other places if you're students, but really honing in on Black men and really making sure that Black men are just like we're concerned about the vote, we have to be concerned about the census as well. So we're just pushing. We're not going to let off the gas, Roland, until there's no day left to get folks to count.
You talk about that whole point about connecting those two. And Beth, we've been telling folks about vote.org. Be sure to get registered, asking for your ballot. But at the bottom down here, they have 2020 Census, where they can fill out the form right there as well. And so, again, to me, this is one of those things where you're in a constant state of messaging, pushing out to as many people as possible. And no outlet, frankly, is too small, because if you can pick up 5,000 or 10,000, another 5,000 or 10,000. Again, that response rate you're talking about goes up dramatically.
Right. Absolutely. And then,
actually, hold on, Melanie, 1 second. Beth, then Melanie. Beth, go ahead.
Okay.
No, absolutely, you're right. I mean, we are all influencers in our own communities. I think folks right now, first take the census, go to 2020census.gov, and if you've done that, share the message. You're a messenger and an influencer in your own community. Share this show. If you're watching on Twitter, hit that retweet. If you're watching on Twitch, share it. To get the message out to our communities. I think everyone knows someone that has not responded to the census. Maybe they're just procrastinating, or maybe there are barriers in life circumstance that has gotten in the way. But we can't miss out on these resources. I also just want to say you're right that the pandemic has really impacted how we as advocates reach out to communities and invite people to respond. We've held a number of digital weeks of action and days of action. I know that the National Coalition for Black Civic Participation and the Unity Diaspora Coalition have been doing incredible digital organizing on the different social media platforms. We've seen teletown halls from the CBC and other members. So we're really going all in to get out the count. But that's also impacted the way the Census Bureau can reach out to people. We know that folks may not feel comfortable opening their door to talk to a census enumerator because of the pandemic and health concerns. So folks should know the easiest way to avoid an enumerator or a census taker at your door is to respond online at 2020census.gov or to call the phone line and respond that way.
Melanie, go ahead.
The other piece was the need to make sure that we engage Black immigrant communities, the Caribbean community, and folks from the African diaspora, because that's a big part. If you think about 2000 census and the 2010 census, the Black population growth, a good part of that is Black immigrant communities, and so really making sure that we're engaging. So we're close with Dr. Claire Nelson, who's really pushing with the Caribbean community, and Benjamin Afrifa and others. Undocumented Black, is another group that we're all working with. And I know with Beth and her and the Leadership Conference Coalition, and just really getting us, we had just had 2 weeks ago, Roland, we pulled everybody together again and said, hey, we really got to get together and push hard on this census, but also getting voting early too. So again, I say do too in 2020 is that simple message, vote and be counted. People understand both of those are opportunities for us to exercise our power and get the resources we need and want for and deserve, because it's our money. At the end of the day, this is about your money coming back to your community to take care of your street, your school, your community, and get the things that you deserve and our community deserve. It's not a handout. It's about our money. Otherwise, it's going to go to somebody else. Well, political power going to go to somebody else.
Well, and that's why I make the point specifically to black men. Look, if you're out there saying you want these things, this is directly tied to it. And again, I just think that for a lot of people, that this is a civics thing, not really understanding the levers of power, how these things work, where resources come from, who you're seeking things from, and how they work. So the census ties directly into districts in terms of how they're drawn, which is tied into who represents you in Congress or in the state legislature, which is then tied to resources that come your way, which is tied to, all of these different things. And as somebody who's covers city government and county government, I've sat in many of those long, boring meetings, and when the conversation comes up, they're talking about census tracts, what the data says in census tracts. Hello, when they say census tracts, that comes from the census. Absolutely. So that's how those things, and so literally, they're even breaking down, for the people who are watching, they're even breaking down health stats, education stats, all of those things by census tract. And that's why people have to realize, if you don't fill it out, then you're actually hurting yourself in the data collection, where they're saying, oh, this is for instance, Congressman Jim Clyburn is a 10, 20, 30 amendment. That is based upon census tracts, where 10% of the people who live below poverty, they want 10% of the resources to go to those census tracts, where 20% or more of the people live below the poverty line for 30 years. That is literally determined by the census tract. So, go ahead, Beth.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. We like to say the census is a tool for change, and we have to use it. Civil rights advocates, like you just said, use census data to defend our rights, to fight to protect the Voting Rights Act and to enforce it, but also to push for new legislation. If we don't know where we are, we can't then track and see disparities or see where our rights are being undermined by bad actors. So census data, yes, money, lots and lots of money that can go to our communities. Yes, number of seats in Congress you get, but also the basis for redistricting, but also it's our power, it's a tool for change. And I agree. I think that that's a point that folks may not realize, that literally everything that you think about census data underlies, and it really is the foundation of our democracy. That's not hyperbole.
Melanie, final comment.
Hey, I just say to folks out there, if you haven't been counted, get counted. Make sure you get counted. Make sure you vote, and so we can get that. It's about money, power, and respect, and we deserve every dollar. We deserve to control the power. We talk about on these streets where we're having to protest. We want to be able to control those city budgets and have the resources we need. The things that folks are talking about moving and reallocating funds. You got to have the funds there to reallocate, right? Provide those services. And census matters. Voting matters.
All right, then. Beth Leak, Melanie Campbell, I so appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right.
Folks, going to a commercial break. We come back. We're going to talk with Congressman Stephen Horsford, who is over the Congressional Black Caucus Census Task Force. That's next on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
It's rough out there. People are looking for change, for answers. One answer is at your fingertips, the 2020 Census. Census takers will be visiting households to make sure we are counted, because an undercounted community could miss out on billions of funding for schools, healthcare, and job assistance each year for the next 10 years. Too much is at stake. Respond online today.
Shape your future. Start here at 2020census.gov.
As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding of services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please, take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. All right, folks, Congressman Stephen Horsford of Nevada. He chairs the Congressional Black Caucus Census Task Force. He joins me right now. Congressman, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Thank you, Roland. Appreciate everything you're doing.
Look, guys like you, y'all get tons of requests from people. Folks come to y'all, they come to your constituents, and they say, we want to see this, we want to see that, we want to see this. And what a lot of people just don't realize is really the process that has been established in this country as to how dollars are allocated. And this one count every 10 years basically ties your hands because the numbers are the numbers. And once it's done, once it's tabulated, see you in a decade.
You are so right, Roland. And what's frustrating is I know we have people taking to the streets over this past year talking about structural racism, social injustice, racial inequities, everything from healthcare to education to jobs and employment, small businesses. And so much of it depends, as you just said, on information that comes from the census. Right now, as of the end of July, the self-response rate is about 65% nationwide. While among the predominantly black census tracts, there is an undercount of about 14%. That 14% equates to billions of dollars that we will lose every single year over the next 10 years. And I want to make this point. I'm hopeful that we're going to have a new administration and we're going to have the history-making new vice president in Kamala Harris. Well, guess what? A Biden-Harris administration will advocate for more funding and investment in our schools, in healthcare, in funding for colleges, historically black colleges and other things. But if the data isn't there, the money can't flow. And that's the message that I want people to hear, is that we have to be counted in order for this money to get to our communities, not just now, but for the next 10 years.
So when we talk about on the congressional level in terms of what the task force is doing, how have y'all been really helping to shape and reshape this whole issue to ensure that African Americans are being reached? Because again, I hear all the time, CBC ain't doing jack, they ain't doing nothing, they don't accomplish nothing. But this is one of those things where folks don't see how the sausage is being made.
So one of the things that we've been doing is working very closely with Stacey Abrams' organization, Fair Count and Fair Fight. I know you were just talking to the Black Roundtable, as well as the Leadership Conference, as well as the National Urban League and the NAACP. So we have been convening these organizations for more than a year and a half now. under the leadership of our chairwoman, Karen Bass. But specifically, we have looked at every member of the Congressional Black Caucus. There are 55 of us. We know exactly what the response rates are in each of those districts. We've done heat maps to show where the response rates have come in under count, and we have been targeting those resources. Our majority whip, Jim Clyburn, literally is putting up billboards throughout South Carolina in his district over the next few weeks to encourage people to get out and vote. We've conducted town halls nationwide and in our district. I conducted job fairs in my district where we were able to make sure that people from our very community got hired as enumerators. And I know one of the biggest issues that you've pushed us on is to have accountability for the Census Bureau and where the millions of dollars of marketing money is going, and whether or not there's money coming to Black press, to Black media outlets in order for that message to reach our community. So we've been doing a lot, but unfortunately, we're up against the same forces that don't want our community to vote. They're the same forces that don't want us to be counted. Why? It's structural racism. They want to prevent the resources, the funding to come to our community. They want to take away our representational power in our congressional seats and in the legislature. My congressional district that I have the honor of representing got created in 2010 because we had a fair and accurate count. Well, I'm the first African American to serve in Congress from Nevada. I'm actually the first person of color from Nevada to serve in Congress. And so that matters. Representation matters. But if we are not counted, we're going to lose the progress that we've made.
So, again, we have until the end of September. What have you been seeing among African Americans in your state, how they have been able to make this, to really drive this messaging home and get African Americans to understand what they must be doing?
Well, what we've been doing in my state and in my district is working with community-based organizations, trusted faith-based leaders, our churches, of course, the Divine Nine, our fraternities and sororities, to talk about the importance of this and to get out, even in the midst of COVID, and encourage people to make sure that they're counted.
All right, Congressman Stephen Horsford, it's always great to have you on the show. Thank you so very much. Keep up the good work, and we'll keep pushing the message out every day to get our people to understand this money is ours, and we got to make it happen. All right. I certainly appreciate it, sir. Thanks a lot. All right, folks, that is it for us right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We certainly thank you. We want you to know if you want to support what we do at Roland Martin Unfiltered, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Go to Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, paypal.me/R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. You can also send a money order to New Vision Media, NU Vision Media, Inc., 1625 K Street, Northwest Suite 400, Washington, D.C., 2006. And again, our goal is to get 20,000 of our followers by the end of the year to contribute $50 or more for the year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. We do that, then we are self-funded and we are able to do what we need to do to ensure that we are spreading like this message. Look, they're not going to be other shows, not going to be dedicating a whole hour to this issue. Why it matters to us? Because when we're being undercounted, then we get less money in our communities, and that's why it matters. Shout out to these people who've given $50 or more: Casey Pitts, Cheryl Rogers, Corey Brown, Desiree Zimmerman, Eric Sterling, Fairmont Landscaping, Fern Glover, James Dix, Landria Jordan, Lenora's Abrams, Love to Praise Ministries, Our Black Business Portal, Patricia Williams, Petrula Griffin, Ramona Beck, Richard Lieutenant, Sandra White Brown, Sheila Pitts, Sylvia Jackson, T. Cry and Company LLC, Unique Clary, Vanessa Mitchell, Veronica Perry. Again, folks, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks so much. Been a fantastic week. We're going to see you guys on Monday right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, as we always end our show on Friday. Here are the folks who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club. Hi!